We are less than 24 hours away from the kickoff of the 2025 NFL season. Everyone has already had their drafts. They've loved looking at their fantasy teams, but now it is time to actually set your lineup. And in today's video, I am going to help you do exactly that. We're going to be going over my top 36 running back rankings and tiers for week number 1 of the 2025 fantasy football season. But before we could get into things here, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. So without further ado, let's get into my top 36 running back rankings and tiers for week number 1 of the 2025 fantasy football season. We begin with the must-start running back 1 tier, which includes my running backs 1 through 10, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, Devon Achane, Derrick Henry, as well as Ashton Jeanty. These are all running backs that you drafted incredibly high in your fantasy football drafts, and thus are going to play them every single week regardless of the matchup, though they are ranked based upon how good I believe they will do in week number 1. We start off with McCaffrey going up against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. Christian McCaffrey, when healthy, is the best running back in fantasy football. The guy's pass catching upside's insane. The amount of touches he receives week in and week out can be absolutely ludicrous. This matchup up against Seattle, I feel as though Christian McCaffrey could score 30 fantasy points. Obviously, there's always that injury risk deep down with Christian McCaffrey, but when the guy's healthy, he needs to be ranked as a top 3 running back on the weekly. At number 2, we got Saquon Barkley of the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys defense is going to be putrid this year, and I expect Saquon Barkley to bend this defense over a table. I think they're going to be up big towards the end of the game, putting the game on ice with Saquon Barkley, getting a ton of rushing opportunities. I think he could easily finish as the RB number 1 on the week, and he feels like a very safe bet to be ranked inside the top 3. At number 3, we've got Bijan Robinson of the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I genuinely do believe this could be the highest scoring matchup of the week between the Bucs and the Atlanta Falcons. Bijan Robinson really caught fire after being not so hot for the first few games of the season. We did see Michael Penix Jr. and Bijan Robinson work incredibly well together. Bijan put up some of his best performances down the stretch of the season with Michael Penix. I think this is a game that is going to be close. We're going to be seeing a lot of pass catching opportunities for Bijan Robinson here. There's a reason why you may have drafted him number 1, number 2, number 3 overall, and that is because you think Bijan Robinson is one of the safest bets at the running back position, just like I do. At number 4, we got Jahmyr Gibbs of the Detroit Lions going up against the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay. Now, do I think this is the most ideal matchup for Jahmyr Gibbs? Of course not, but Jahmyr Gibbs is Jahmyr Gibbs. It's week number 1. All of the reports of the summer were that he was going to be working earlier on in games, unlike the last 2 seasons where David Montgomery was getting a shitload of touches early on in the game. They are going to be giving those to Jahmyr Gibbs, and that should ultimately boost his floor on a weekly basis as well as increase his ceiling. We know when the Lions offense is playing at their maximum capacity, they could even slap around a defense like the Green Bay Packers. Jahmyr Gibbs is a must start every single week. At number 5, we got Jonathan Taylor. Now, Jonathan Taylor was a guy that I did not really love in fantasy football drafts. I thought that his ADP was a little bit too high compared to guys sometimes where he'd go ahead of a Bucky Irving, a Chase Brown, right? Guys that I like better than him. But, and this is a big but, shout out to Angela White, it's week 1, and the Indianapolis Colts are going up against the Miami Dolphins, and this is a matchup that is incredibly exploitable. As a Dolphins fan, I already know our rush defense is absolutely atrocious, bottom of the barrel. A guy like Jonathan Taylor, that's as good of a running back as Jonathan Taylor, is going to have no issue running a train, Thomas the Tank Engine style on this Dolphins defense. I do expect the Dolphins to hopefully win this game, but even so, Jonathan Taylor is going to rip us a new a-hole, so I think Jonathan Taylor goes nuclear in week 1. At number 6, we got Bucky Irving going up against the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta. Seems as though Rashad White is going to end up playing in this game, but I don't ultimately think that throws Bucky Irving into the cuck chair on the corner. Bucky Irving has gotten so much hype in the summer from the coaching staff about how he has the ability to be the lead back. He's got great pass catching abilities. He increased his pass blocking abilities as well. So I feel very, very good about Bucky Irving here. Again, this game has that high scoring potential, and I think this could be a game where Bucky Irving is solely the reason why you win your week. At number 7, we got Chase Brown going up against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. Now, over the last, just over the whole Joe Burrow NFL experience, week number 1 has not done them any favors. Over the last 2 years, Joe Burrow hasn't even thrown a touchdown in the first week of games. Now, does that mean that Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals are going to get steamrolled here by the Browns and Joe Flacco? Probably not. But that is an important note. Ultimately, though, the offense was playing in preseason, which hasn't been the case in the past. So hopefully they start off the season not in neutral and they're in super mode, supercar mode, whatever the fuck the S stands for that's in my Honda Civic, where the thing goes a little bit faster. So I like Chase Brown a ton in this game. We've heard so much hype up about his pass catching ability, and I think this is a very exploitable matchup up against Cleveland. Now, we've been talking about week number 1 this whole time, right? And in week number 1, we have the least amount of statistics to talk about, right? I'm kind of just speaking about my general feel of these teams. There's not a whole lot of analytics to go off of when it's week number 1. If you guys want access to these rankings, they're available on Patreon, link in the video description, for $12.50 a month. They update throughout the week, so if you want my most updated version, you can check out the Patreon. Then we got Devon Achane, running back of the Miami Dolphins, going up against the Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis. Now, I do have my reservations potentially about them using more of the just the tip technique with him as he's coming back from an injury. Now, when I say just the tip, I don't necessarily mean it that way, because I don't think they're just going to totally ease him in. I think maybe they'll go like 3/4 of the way in, but the whole goddamn thing don't fit in there, right? I think that's probably more likely going to be the scenario here. But Devon Achane also isn't one of those running backs that needs a crazy workload to be successful. He could take one dump off, straight 99 yards to the crib. So Devon Achane, even with those worries, and the Colts defense being relatively all right, I still do think that Devon Achane should have a big game here. And there's a reason why you drafted him where you did, and that's to play him in week 1. You're not going to fucking sit Devon Achane in week 1, assuming that he is good to go. Next up, we got Derrick Henry going up against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. Now, the first matchup up against the Buffalo Bills earlier on in last season, Derrick Henry had them crying to their mother. I mean, Derrick Henry ran them over, and he just kept doing it, and I think there's the potential for that to happen in week number 1. Now, Derrick Henry is notoriously a guy that finishes the season strong. Once it gets a little bit colder out there, you can't stop Tractor Cedo Derrick Henry. This is week number 1, so I am worried about him potentially starting off the season on the wrong foot, starting off the season a little bit slow. But again, he's Derrick Henry. He doesn't give a shit about the narratives that I've put on him. He will probably have a pretty solid game. Final guy in the S tier is going to be Ashton Jeanty of the Las Vegas Raiders, going up against the New England Patriots in New England. Now, obviously, starting a rookie running back in week number 1 might seem a little bit scary, right? It might not seem like the most ideal scenario, and I get that. But Ashton Jeanty in week 1, my projection would be workhorse running back. I don't project them to just ease him in. I don't project them to be safe with things. I think we're to be getting the full Ashton Jeanty workload. You drafted him in either the first or the second round. I get maybe there is a little bit of nervousness, like the devil versus the angel on your shoulder. The devil's a little bit nervous about Ashton Jeanty, but ultimately, I just think he is going to be putting up such reliable numbers week in and week out that I feel 100% confident in playing him in his first ever game. And I know Nick Bijan Robinson burned me in his first ever game. Don't worry about Bijan Robinson. We love this year. That was not his fault. We can all just blame Arthur Smith. Now we move into the high-end running back 2 range with my running backs 11 through 16. Chuba Hubbard, James Conner, Alvin Kamara, Josh Jacobs, Kyren Williams, as well as Kenneth Walker. If you guys are new to the channel, please make sure that you do hit that subscribe button down below if you've enjoyed thus far. Now, I really like this matchup up against the Jacksonville Jaguars defense for Chuba Hubbard. The last time we saw Chuba Hubbard was up against the Arizona Cardinals in week number 16, and Chuba Hubbard absolutely torched them. He Thanos snapped them out of existence, put up a huge showing. I think he could do the exact same thing up against the Jacksonville Jaguars defense. This week, he was a guy that I heavily talked up in the summer, and I'm going to continue to believe in Chuba Hubbard. I think he is clearly the RB1. Rico Dowdle is levels below him in this offense, so I expect a big showing here in Duval. At number 12, we got James Conner of the Arizona Cardinals going up against the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. The Saints defense really isn't all that good at all, if I'm being honest with you. James Conner and Trey Benson has been a big discussion over the summer. Who's going to be seeing more touches? Is this going to be a 1A, 1B? Is Trey Benson going to steal the crown from James Conner? We shall see. But ultimately, going into week 1, my assumption is that James Conner is that guy. I expect the Arizona Cardinals to steamroll the Saints here, to be up big. So, we're going to be seeing a lot of James Conner down the stretch of this game. So, I think he should be able to finish as a high-end RB2. And I got him ranked as a low-end RB1. But technically, I didn't want to make this tier like high-end RB2, low-tier RB1, so he's in the high-end RB2 range. Next up, we got Alvin Kamara in the exact same game going up against the Arizona Cardinals at home. Now, Alvin Kamara recently has been an early season hammer. This guy puts up ridiculous numbers early on in the season, and week number 1 is, you guessed it, early on in the season. I understand that Spencer Rattler really isn't worth jack shit. I don't think Spencer Rattler is good at all. Walmart Patrick Mahomes is going to end up not having an illustrious NFL career, but Alvin Kamara is the focal piece in this offense. He is going to be seeing a million looks in this game. I wouldn't be shocked if he got 8+ targets here. So in a matchup that I think is good up against the Arizona Cardinals, I feel great about Alvin Kamara. At number 14, we got Josh Jacobs of the Green Bay Packers going up against the Detroit Lions. Not the best matchup ever. Josh Jacobs came out the gate last year running in slow motion, running like there was 2 dudes tied to each of his ankles, and it didn't go well at all. But after the first few games of the season, he started to really pick things up. That could be due to Jordan Love being hurt, could be due to Josh Jacobs just being a slow starter, but ultimately, Josh Jacobs was a top 2-round fantasy football draft pick. Maybe he fell into the 3rd round in your league if you got lucky. I love Josh Jacobs this year. He's going to be a big piece of this offense inside of the red zone. The running back 2 is Emmanuel Wilson, so it's clearly going to be Josh Jacobs as a bell cow back in this offense. This game has pretty high scoring upside, so while the defensive matchup as a whole does scare me, I think Josh Jacobs could still score multiple touchdowns here. Next up, we got Kyren Williams going up against the Houston Texans. Kyren Williams just got paid $33 million, 3-year deal. He has been a guy that has just been getting a ridiculous amount of touchdowns over the last 2 seasons. A lot of people said going into last year, he can't possibly score that many touchdowns again. And then you know what he did in 2024? He scored 1 more touchdown than he scored in 2023. He said, suck on that. This year, a lot of people are trying to prey on his downfall. Oh my God, it's going to be Blake Corum season. Oh my God, it's going to be Jarquez Hunter season, and then Kyren Williams is just going to be the clear bell cow back yet again. Great matchup. Fuck no, baby. But Kyren Williams, again, is a guy that is just getting so many looks week in and week out. He is on an offense that can score a shit ton of points, and any given week, the guy's got a nose for the end zone to score multiple touchdowns. At number 16, we've got Kenneth Walker going up against the San Francisco 49ers. A lot of talk about a potential backfield split this season with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. I'm not sure how much I want to buy into that. When Kenneth Walker is healthy, he has the ability to be the RB1. The question is, can he stay healthy? Not the best matchup in my opinion, but that Clint Kubiak zone run scheme should be able to scheme up Kenneth Walker a top-end season if he can stay healthy. Shout out to the if man, Justin Herbert the pervert. Speaking of Justin Herbert, headlining our mid-range running back 2 tier is going to be his RB1, Omarion Hampton. Isaiah Pacheco's in there as well. So is James Cook and Breece haul. Before we talk about these running backs and the rest of the running backs in today's video, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our partner over on Underdog. If you're brand new to Underdog and sign up using promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description, you will receive a free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus funds, as well as you will receive, if you are a new customer signing up using promo code Notorious, you play $5 in the pick'em and you get $50 in bonus funds. Make sure you guys do check that out. Link in the video description. If you're not sure how Pick'em works, it is incredibly simple. You pick at least 2 players. They're higher or they're lower. They cannot be on the same team. If both of those picks hit, you will receive your winnings. If you do multiple other picks, then the other picks have to hit as well, but you will win on that as well if all of your picks hit, and the payout will be higher the more players you put into your pick'em. So make sure you guys do check that out, promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description. So when it comes to this range at the running back position, I think a lot of people are going to be nervous about Omarion Hampton because Mr. One-Eye Najee Harris, Fetty Wap himself, is going to potentially play in this game. Sure, he'll play in this game, but how many fucking snaps are they realistically going to give Najee Harris after he has missed this much time? The answer is not a lot. Sure, maybe you'll see a couple of times where Najee Harris comes in and you wish it was Omarion Hampton, but ultimately, Omarion Hampton is the running back 1 on this team. I don't want you guys to panic. I don't want you to get nervous about Omarion Hampton just because Najee Harris might play a couple of snaps in this game. If you want to be nervous about Omarion Hampton, it's because the matchup isn't very good, but the reason to worry is not because, oh man, Najee Harris is going to steal all this motherfucker's touches. At number 18, we got Isaiah Pacheco of the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the Chargers in Brazil. Isaiah Pacheco last season starts off the year as legitimately the bell cow running back on the Kansas City Chiefs. He gets hurt. He comes back. He's not himself because he suffered a leg injury that obviously is going to heavily impact a running back. Coming into this year, my expectation is that Isaiah Pacheco is the bell cow back, but we don't know that for sure. So we kind of have to wait and see what happens. But if my assumption comes true, then Isaiah Pacheco has league winner written all over him, and I think he has a pretty solid game here. At number 19, we got James Cook going up against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the first time these two teams played, like we talked about with Derrick Henry, this was a matchup where the Buffalo Bills could not get it up. They were limp dick. They didn't have a Cialis, a Blue Chew. They didn't have a Viagra. They were getting pounded for 4 quarters straight during the regular season. Then in the playoffs, the Buffalo Bills end up winning because Mark Andrews didn't have any stickum on his gloves like he was Jerry Rice. So now going into this game, I expect it to be a more closer matchup. I think James Cook should be fine here. I don't love James Cook on the season because I don't think he could possibly score that many touchdowns again, but ultimately the Bills are a good offense. James Cook has that touchdown upside in any given game. He's a fine running back, just not a guy that I loved at ADP. At number 20, we got Breece Hall going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, this game will be incredibly telling on if I was correct about Breece Hall or not. Were we getting the wool pulled over our eyes and everyone was fading Breece Hall because of Braylon Allen, and Braylon Allen doesn't really do anything. Braylon Allen really doesn't look good at all, and it's Breece Hall supremacy over this backfield? Or is it going to be that all of those rumors, the murmurs, were correct, and if you drafted Breece Hall, your team is getting fucked directly in the ass? We shall see. The matchup up against Pittsburgh isn't the best, but I do think Breece Hall is going to be getting a lot of receiving looks in this game, like they've been saying all offseason, so that should be able to get him to at least finish in the mid-range RB2 range. Moving next to the low-end running back 3s with Travion Henderson, David Montgomery, Tony Pollard, and DeAndre Swift. Travion Henderson, first ever game. Now, we talked about Ashton Jeanty, right? It's his rookie debut, and I expect Ashton Jeanty to see an ass load of carries, a BBL, Violet Myers wagon level carries. I think that Ashton Jeanty is going to get force-fed the ball all game long. Travion Henderson, I don't feel as confident about that. This is going to be a double-headed dragon backfield. It's like one of those memes where, you ever seen the meme where it's the 3 dragons, one dragon looks absolutely menacing, or 2 dragons look menacing, the one dragon looks like a fucking dumbass? That is the meme, except for it's one dragon and another dragon, and TreVeyon Henderson's the cool-looking dragon, the mean-looking dragon, and Ramondre Stevenson is the dragon that looked like your dog after you accidentally ate your weed gummies, right? Or one of those brownie things that people eat. So, TreVeyon Henderson, I am very excited about what this season can become, but coming out the gate, I can't rank him as highly as I want to, even though I do think he's going to have a tremendous season. Lots of pass-catching upside. We talked about him in the summer as almost me seeing Jahmyr Gibbs-esque abilities out of him. So even if the Raiders get out to a big lead, which I don't project to happen, TreVeyon Henderson will be getting a lot of pass-catching opportunities out of the backfield. So I'm hoping TreVeyon Henderson comes out with a statement game in week number 1, but I think that's more being optimistic than being realistic. At number 22, we got David Montgomery going up against the Green Bay Packers. Now, we talked about with Jahmyr Gibbs how Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be seeing the majority of the work early on in games now. They're no longer going to have David Montgomery out there, and we'll just be seeing Jahmyr Gibbs watching the game from the sideline, being incredibly depressed because he's not getting the ball, and it sucked ass if you had him, and you're just wishing he was out there because you know deep down he is significantly better than David Montgomery. And while there is the talks of that, we know deep down that Dan Campbell loves David Montgomery. So, David Montgomery will still be seeing a lot of looks. Will it be as much as previous seasons? No, not in my opinion, but he's going to get enough looks, and he's going to get looks in the red zone where you get very pissed because Gibbs gets vultured. So, any given game, Monty could score a touchdown. I know the matchup isn't the best, but it's week 1. We're just playing off of our prior expectations. And while I don't love David Montgomery this year, I do still think he is worthy of a start in this range of the tier 4 guys, the low-end running back 2s. At number 23, we got Tony Pollard going up against the Denver Broncos in Denver. Now, I was someone towards the end of the summer that got higher than Elon Musk on Tony Pollard. I was talking up Tony Pollard a ton because of the Tajay Spears injury, and a lot of people are going to get potentially speared here, Roman Reigns style, by Tony Pollard because this matchup up against the Denver Broncos is looking rough. This is a very bad matchup for week number 1. Cam Ward going up against maybe the best defense in the NFL. This could lead to a very negative game script where they're not able to run the ball a ton with Tony Pollard after the first quarter or two. So that is a worry of mine, but ultimately I think he sees enough touches to be fine. At number 24, we got DeAndre Swift. Now, DeAndre Swift, in my opinion, was one of the least sexy picks you can make in fantasy drafts. You were essentially taking DeAndre Swift's ADP, whatever it was, running back 20, 21, 22, 23, and you drafted him there for him to just finish there, right? He's not going to be a guy that absolutely fucks your fantasy team over, sells him up the river, but he also wasn't going to be a guy that wins you your league. There's talks about DJ Moore getting work inside the red zone as a running back. There's been hype for Kyle Monagai. I still think Roschon Johnson's good, but it's week number 1. DeAndre Swift is that guy. Pass catching abilities, he should be fine, but I'm not uber excited about him. The guy I'm most excited about in this tier by far and away is TreVeyon Henderson, but again, it's his first game. I can't rank him higher than this. I almost could have put him in a tier of his own, but that just didn't feel right because there is still those butterflies, those nerves with TreVeyon moving now into the high-end running back 3s with Ron Jones Sr., Tyrone Tracy, as well as J.K. Dobbins. There's been talk a lot throughout the summer about how Aaron Jones and Jordan, the numbers, Mason, what do they mean, are going to be a 1A, 1B in this offense. I think that news is a little bit fugazi because it's not going to be a true 50-50. I think it's probably like 60% Aaron Jones, 40% Jordan Mason. But if Jordan Mason is eating up those goal line touches, that is going to ultimately potentially sink the battleship, sink the pirate ship of one Aaron Jones. Chicago was pretty bad against running backs last season, so that would be our biggest hope here for Aaron Jones, but I'm not feeling super overzealous with my rankings. I'm not super confident with my ranking of Aaron Jones because I do see the big upside, but also it's week number 1. I don't think most of you guys drafted Aaron Jones in the range where he's like a must-start running back for you unless you went heavy wide receiver early on. Next up, we got Tyrone Tracy. Now, I love Tyrone Tracy. I think Tyrone Tracy is the clear lead back here over Cam Scatterboo, but going up against the Commanders could end up being far from ideal. Not because the Commanders have this elite defense that is just gobbling up the run, that is just going to eat running backs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but because I think the Giants could get down big early and then not be able to run the ball as much late on in the game. Though Tyrone Tracy has proven to be, at least in the training camp reports that I've read, a favorite target of Russell Wilson, so that should be fine ultimately. But again, it's week 1. You don't really have to start Tyrone Tracy. Same thing's the case for J.K. Dobbins. Now, early on the season, I think J.K. Dobbins is going to be this golden nugget you found late on in the draft, like the casino, right? Just this ultra great pick you made late in the draft, and then eventually he's going to cede the work to RJ Harvey, or the guy's going to get hurt like he always does. Now, I don't root for injuries. I hate when players get injured. I want every single player. I want them to turn the injuries off in the NFL like you can do in Madden, right? And no one gets hurt. But ultimately, if someone was to get hurt this season, it probably would be J.K. Dobbins, the guy who gets hurt walking up the stairs. He trips down the stairs and falls down the stairs like Peter Griffin and is out for the season. I like Dobbins a ton in week 1. I think he will be the lead back on this team in a scenario where the team's going to be up in the game early on. I like that a ton, but RJ Harvey's still going to get work, so you can't get too high and mighty on a guy like J.K. Dobbins. Moving now on into the final tier of today's video, the low-end running back 3s. Now, again, I talked about how I wouldn't love starting the high-end running back 3 range, but I like them significantly more than I like the group beneath them. We begin with ETN, then Eckler, RJ Harvey, Jaylen Warren, Jerome Ford F-150, his former teammate 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Jordan, the numbers Mason, what do they mean, as well as Javonte Williams. Now, today, there's been a lot of hype about Travis Etienne, where Liam Cohen's kind of playing with his nutsack like a Fushigi. He's really hitting them with the Gawk Gawk 9000 special. But again, a lot of the speak in the summer kind of shows us that this is going to be an equal backfield early on between Etienne and Bigsby. One of them may end up getting traded, and then we might end up seeing Baishal Tootin season. We'll see what happens here. Week 1, I like the matchup up against the Panthers. I think this is a great spot. But would I guarantee, scream from the mountaintops, that he's clearly going to see way more touches than Bigsby? I would not do that. At number 29, we got Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler should be the guy early on. Chris Rodriguez going to get touches, as well as Bill Nye, the science guy. I think when it comes to Ja'Cory, it might take a while for him to truly become the guy on the team. But this is a scenario where you need to hold the line. Eventually, you might have to abandon ship. Eventually, you might need to duck and cover and drop JCM like it's hot. But early on in the season, I do expect Eckler to be more the guy. He's going to catch a lot of passes out of the backfield. But ultimately, if this is a 3-headed monster early on, you probably just don't want to be playing any of them. Next up, we got RJ Harvey of the Denver Broncos going up against the Tennessee Titans. I'm very excited for what this season will be out of RJ Harvey. We have seen a guy like Sean Payton, the head coach of the team, really be able to squeeze all the value out of the running backs that he's had in his career. So I am very, except for last year in Denver, because Javonte Williams is a useless sack of shit. I do like RJ Harvey a ton, but again, early on, I feel like the team's gonna lean with the veteran J.K. Dobbins. So Harvey could obviously bust off a big run, get a nice catch out of the backfield, have a good game, but ultimately, I think if you were going to bet one versus the other, who scores more fantasy points, I'd feel much more confident putting my money on J.K. Dobbins. Next up, we got Jaylen Warren, named the starter for the beginning of the season, at least, going up against the Jumbo Jets. Not a matchup I'm super excited about, super low-scoring game. Caleb Johnson, I feel kind of the same way as I feel with RJ Harvey. I think Caleb Johnson on a team that runs the ball as much as the Pittsburgh Steelers will become a guy that you wish you had drafted if you didn't draft him. But early on in the season, there's going to be a lot of people dancing on Caleb Johnson's grave, doing the fucking Irish jig, hitting all those dances that the dudes and sinners were hitting outside of the juke joint when they're trying to get them to come outside so they could eat them alive. Shout out to Haley Seinfeld, looking great in that movie, but fuck her husband, Josh Allen. I can't stand that man. But realistically, I think Jaylen Warren will be okay week 1, but Jaylen Warren's been given the hefty load like Haley Steinfeld was by Michael B. Jordan in that movie before, and it hasn't really worked. So a lot of people are kind of buying a false promise with Jaylen Warren. Next up is Jerome Ford. I like Jerome Ford. I think Dylan Sampson's better than him, though, and I think the Cincinnati Bengals might be slinging out back shots in this game. They might be down very quickly, and that completely takes Ford out of the game plan. Then we got 9-inch Nicholas Chubb going up against the LA Rams. I love Nick Chubb. I think this is his backfield early on. We'll see some Dameon Pierce. We'll see some Woody Marks. Week 1 will be very telling. Is Nick Chubb washed or not? Now, I'm not going to fully write off Jerome Ford or Nick Chubb after one down game up against the Rams defensive line. I won't do that. But it'll be very telling. Hey, are they taking Nick Chubb out? Does Nick Chubb look like he's running in slow motion? Does Nick Chubb look like he probably should have just fucking retired? I think we will know at least a lot of that week 1. And then, after like 2 weeks of Nick Chubb looking like dog shit, I'd probably just cut him if that was the case. Next up, we got Jordan, the numbers Mason. What do they mean going up against the Chicago Bears in Chicago on Monday night? I like Jordan Mason. I really do think that Jordan Mason was a great draft pick. I think if something happens to Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason has league winner written all over it. When McCaffrey got hurt, Jordan Mason hopped onto the saddle like his name was Arthur Morgan and started putting up big games. But, and this is a big but, shout out to Layla Starr, I am hesitant to be all over him in week 1, metaphorically, of course, because it's week 1. There's no injuries. No one's hurt. Aaron Jones is healthy. We'll see what the split is. Final guy here is going to be Javonte Williams of the Dallas Cowboys going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. I honestly didn't even want to include Javonte Williams here with Jaden Bonnie Blue and him being a rookie. Like, Javonte is going to get the touches early on, but once, the Dallas Cowboys are getting touched in their no-no square and the game is bad, it's going really, really bad, and they're losing by a ton, then Javonte Williams is probably going to get thrown to the side. So let's be honest, if you have to start Javonte Williams, you probably are not feeling great about that. The final guys in the next tier, I'm just going to list off a couple of guys. I'm not going to talk about any of them because, again, it's week 1. There's no real injuries. There's no bye weeks. You don't really have to worry about them. So Tank Bigsby, Ramondre Stevenson, Zach Charbonnet, Caleb Johnson, Rashad White, Dylan Sampson, JCM. Again, hopefully you don't have to play any of those guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying today's video, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. Check out the rankings. They're updated constantly over on Patreon. I love you guys a ton. Check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. And as always, good boy!